Rohitji, returning to the sixth generation technologies being developed in China. Now, we had seen in December 2024 two Chinese sixth generation aircraft by two different companies, Chengdu and Shenyang Aircraft Corporation, flew. In fact, in one of the sixth generation fighter aircraft, there were two J-20s which were escorting it. And they are fifth generation stealth aircraft. And China has already manufactured 200 of them, which means a significant number of that could be flown in Tibetan Autonomous Region even today. They are also looking at increasing that number to 1000 by 2035. At the same time, what are we doing? We have started a project AMCA in 2010. In 2014 March, 15,000 crores were given by the government towards this project, and DRDO has come out with a timeline that within 2.5 years, that is by 2027, they'll have the first prototype flying. By 2034, the development will be completed, and by 2035, they'll have aircraft on production line which will be handed over to the Indian Air Force. Though it's a very aggressive timeline, and DRDO agencies are known to be delaying in timelines, at the same time, what do we do in the interim when the Chinese themselves are flying the sixth generation aircraft which will be operational at that period of time, and they have already sold 40 J-35s to Pakistan, which the delivery will be completed in the next 2 years. In this interim period of 10 years, what should India do?
Well, it's a very, very complicated question, because the answer for this, for the interim period, would not be, in my personal opinion, not to go with the fighters. The best option, in my personal view, would be to look at the other ways by which we can maintain operational edge on over Pakistan. And second is to have a very realistic approach and join hand with the best friend. That's the only way forward, because we are still back to where, as I said before, what we could not achieve in LCA is going to hamper our AMCA. Exactly the same thing. We are back to the same situation.
Here what I was looking at mainly was how do we get the technologies
I'm coming
inside.
to that. So, ability to manufacture very high technology is a problem in India, which we have to accept. Now coming to how to acquire the capability in the given timeline. Fundamental problem is in the engine. Now, if we go closer to Russia with Su-57, the engine for LCAs won't come. If you go for the engines for LCA with Russia, US, will they allow us to develop AMCA in the timeline? Because then they would like to sell their aircraft. So now we are in a catch-22 situation, and all these problems are emerging because we did not think through. We did not look at all the fallouts that could have happened, and our reading of the world affairs were also a shortcoming.
But Rohitji, here now amongst the six
allow me to
aircraft,
just finish, because I'll come to this. Now, sixth generation aircraft. I remember there was a presentation by then, which was CCR&D in DRDO, about sixth generation aircraft in long back 2011-12 in a conference. By then, even the sixth generation aircrafts, what
were
would
in design
define
stage.
would define a sixth generation aircraft was not there. Now the situation is China is going to define what is the sixth generation aircraft. You see that there's a major problem now. What is there within that sixth generation aircraft, we do not know. So, and they will define what are the characteristics of sixth generation aircraft. So we actually have to do a lot before we reach there, where they have already reached. And let's not think about sixth generation they have reached. The first fifth generation fighter flew when? 30 years back? First stealth aircraft flew in 1980s. It was first used in a warfare in 1991 when F-117 was used in Iraq. So we are already 30 years behind in that fifth generation fighters and then sixth generation. So now the question is, we have to look at a point where investing in this kind of project is futile. It is now go back to co-development. Allow me to give a very hypothetical question. We manufactured Russian engines from material. Nobody can share you beyond that. Why we have not able to convert it into our own engine? We must be having huge amount of data right now, development data. Why have we not able to convert them? Either we have not been able to collect data. The question is why we have not been able to collect data. That's one. Two, if we had gone ahead with Russians in 30, 35 years and said, fine, we are not able to develop engine, we make your engine in hundreds every year, we have been doing it, why not we develop an engine for our LCA? They had more region to go, but we went France. We are basically doing business with everybody. Our ecosystem is not in sync with anybody's. China did not do this mistake. China went ahead in the first go to develop certain technologies, because you know better than me that all aircrafts are manufactured on a system which are unique to that aircraft. So we do not have any manufacturing ecosystem which is suitable to one. Now we would be, if we develop, what would be the equipments? Testing equipment will be based on what?
The most important thing is getting the technology of fifth generation, whether it deals with stealth, whether it deals with extended range, whether it deals with reducing the radar, heat and visual signatures, or whether it deals with the weapon systems being carried in bays that are brought up, that is conformal with the fuselage. So the extended range, extended stealth capacities, as well as super cruise facilities for the engine, which results in much higher speeds above 2.5 Mach for a fighter aircraft. So now when we are looking at that, now we had already floated a multi-role fighter aircraft tender open. I mean, it was first a request for information which came in 2018, and we are thinking of going for an open tender at this moment when a defense committee has been established. There are 6 aircraft that we are considering in that for short term, when we are going to fall short, that we may not even remain relevant with respect to Pakistan Air Force. We need to do something about that urgently. In that, when I had analyzed it, I found that F-15EX was more suitable than even the Su-57 with the artificial intelligence systems that have been fit into it, which enhances its survivability like nearly to a stealth aircraft, to a 5th generation fighter. And at the same time, it has 24 to 48 aircraft that they can manufacture in air. So in a year, whereas Russians are not able to manufacture the Su-57 for themselves to complete the 76 number. So my own feeling is that for the short term, we need to think out of the box. We need to think even of F-15EX, because the technologies that we are going to get in transport technology, which they are willing to give us, is going to look at next 40 years, because that aircraft is being introduced first time in the US Air Force last year. That is in July 2024 it was introduced. So which means it's going to remain relevant. It is the fastest fighter in the world with 2.5 or 2.4 Mach. So what my own thinking and my request for all to understand on this particular issue, where Indian Air Force is going to be really, into a corner in this two-front threat environment, that we need to think of long term by the measures that you are saying. They are very good and they can be implemented. And at the same time, for the stopgap, we need to think of the MRFA tender, open tender to come out quickly. Sir, I want to finish this here because we got another topic lined up.
A few lines I would like to add. How is this different from the short number purchase of Rafale? How it is different from the purchase of a very small number of Mirage 2000 in 80s when we
I would answer this straight away, because Mirage 2000 has reached the 4th generation after we have upgraded it post 2010, but it has not gone beyond 2000 its 4th generation.
I'm talking about 80s. This is what exactly we went for MiG 29, because Pakistan got F-16. So this is exactly the same approach. We have to also look at what is the future of those technologies. This is where the China understands. China realizes this technology doesn't have a future. Let's take it the basic one and deal with it. Those technologies are actually going to be out. They may be relevant. Relevant at what level? Whether they will be at the front or of the operation, or whether they will be back. Have we done a very realistic comparison with the Chinese fifth generation fighter vis-a-vis
Yeah,
F-15.
like you're mentioning the J-20 and the J-35s.
Have we done a realistic, very realistic comparison? Then we also have to look at the stress that F-15E is going to bring on the Air Force ecosystem, the maintenance training, and so on and so forth. And we also have to look at how many fifth generation, fourth generation fighters we will have.
You mentioned the
know,
Rafale. Now I want to tell you one thing.
The basic fundamental of multi-role fighter was to reduce the number of types of fighters.
Exactly.
Right? If I'm not wrong, Rafale was conceived to eliminate 7 different kind of aircrafts. India is the only country which has got almost right now 4 different fourth generation fighters, multi-role fighters. Let's leave the generation. Only keep with the multi-role fighter. Sukhoi, Mirage, Rafale, and then we also have MiG-29s, right? To this mixture, we are going to add F-15.
No, here just one thing.
Yeah.
See, give me just 2 minutes in this, because first thing is there are 3 squadrons of MiG-29, 3 squadrons of Mirage 2000, and 6 squadrons of Jaguars. Each are going to finish 40 years of their service life within this period, up to 2030 to 33, which implies by 2035 we need to replace all the 12 squadrons. So when we are looking at replacing 12 squadrons, there are not going to be a multiplicity of types. That is one. The types would get reduced to Su-30 MKI, to the Rafale, and to the aircraft that we are bringing in, and maybe AMCA as and when it comes up. So the numbers will get reduced significantly. Secondly, the F-15, why we can't go in for a Rafale additional, is primarily because had we bought in at that time, not 36, but entire 126 as we had envisioned earlier, today we won't have this problem.
Exactly.
But Rafale right now would be unable to provide us with 6 squadrons of fighter aircraft in a time period up to 2035, especially when it is going to give us 26 more Rafales for the Navy, which they themselves cannot promise anything earlier than 2030. So we are looking at going for an aircraft which is already in the 4.5 generation, which has the weapon systems of 4.5 generation, versus F-15EX, which is the next generation ahead to Rafale. It has the weapon systems which have ranges anywhere from 370 to 900 kilometers plus, and where the Americans are themselves introducing it in their own service at this period of time, and it's going to remain relevant for 40 years more. So Rafale has been in flight from 2003 onwards. So in any case, Rafale itself is becoming outdated in the next 10 to 20 years. So my request when we think of this kind of aircraft acquisition is, we have to think of life cycle cost. We have to think of next 40 years that the aircraft should be relevant, and next 20 years it should not get upgraded.
How about the strategic consideration?
The strategic consideration for this is the F-15EX. If we go in for, we are getting transfer of technology, integration of,
when I say strategic consideration,
weapon systems, and also that we'll be able to force the Americans to give us all the engines that we desire, even for LC.
So this is where the problem lies. What you are looking at as an opportunity, I'm looking at as a trouble. And why I'm looking at as a trouble is the ability of India to fight on its own will get reduced.
Rohitji, let's come to a very interesting topic which is extremely close to your heart: drone warfare. Drones were utilized in Nagorno-Karabakh, in Middle East conflict, as well as in Russia-Ukraine war in very large numbers. They have come to play a very important role in combat warfare. At this particular moment, China is the leading exporter of drones, both civil and military. And when we are looking at even military drones, they have exported 280 military drones to various countries such as Pakistan, some Middle East, and some African countries. At this stage, when Government of India has liberalized the drone policy, and our own defense research like Rustum and Nishan drones are nowhere on the horizon for operationalization as of this moment, where do you think is our current status, especially with respect to private industry on drone and drone development, especially the ones that are being produced in large numbers. So just to give you one example, China is procuring 1 million drones by 2026, and I assume them to be loitering drones or the FPV drones, which have an armed element into it. So where do you think is our capability with respect to Chinese sending hundreds of drones which are loitering, which are FPV, which are going to target a critical infrastructure and target systems in the coming future, if it ever happens?
You have to read.
I know that you like
report,
this subject.
IDEA report on UAV warfare, in which I had proposed that drones are going to be the infantry of air. The air-land merger, warfare merger, which was being conceived some 15 years back in a very different manner, it turned out to be in a very different manner. So drones are going to be the infantry of air. They are going to do exactly the same job that an infantryman does. And as a military officer, you know what an infantryman does. Now look at the Telegram channels for the last 6 months, 1 year, 2 years of videos. All the job of infantry is being done by drones. Hitting the infantry vehicles, checkposts, bunkers and whatnot.
You mean to say it's become like an extended artillery?
Yes. No, artillery, this is doing the job of infantry. All the, if I'm not wrong, almost every PVC in Kargil was about capturing a bunker or a machine gun post. Now you don't have to send so many brave young men going to capture a machine gun post. Our FPV can go and pinpoint accuracy can blow the machine gun post.
So for our learners and for people who are listening to us, what is an FPV?
First person view. So the drone sends you the picture of as a person will view, the first person will view it, and it has a small grenade size ammunition.
Weapon
It may or
system.
may not have grenade, but enough to the size
2 to
of
2.5 kgs.
yeah, of a grenade size explosive. It goes and it blows. So if you have a post or you have a bunker or you may have a trench where 2 soldiers are manning it, an FPV drones goes and explodes, killing both of them. So the person is so vulnerable, and it does even with the, your artillery guns. Poland has an M777 maintenance facility because M777 is being hit by Russian FPVs at FPNUT. So they do all the jobs.
So what is India's capability in this?
Okay, so China making million drones is because they are required in millions, right? Why they are manufacturing in millions? Because it is actually required in millions. The last number that, if I'm not wrong, I may be quoting the wrong source. It's from a RUSI report, RUSI's Royal United Services Institute report, that almost 50,000 drones are being used in Ukraine every month. That's the number we're looking at. So we don't have the manufacturing capacity, number one. We are still going on with tethered and non-tethered, small quadruples, so very, very and off-the-shelf available. Just do the little calculation on the payloads and ranges and all, and then bring out the payloads from off the shelf and just integrate them. That's what we do. And most of the UAV companies are very small companies, done by 8, 10, 20, 30 people. So they neither have this range, nor have the capacity, nor have the technological depth to do those things. A lot of them are which have a backing of good industry houses. They are doing a lot of work in acquiring capability from abroad. Again, the same, acquiring capability from abroad is what they're doing. The fundamental problem is the mind of a drone is being imported from China. The software issue is there.
In fact, there is a ban today that we cannot have Chinese components in the drones.
True, that we had to come with that ban. But where are we sourcing the, which countries have that kind of massive manufacturing capacity? And the answer is wherever it exists, it is going for the Ukraine war, not available for you.
Absolutely.
So you are in a fix.
So how do we encourage drone production in India?
Because now drone production is not about small companies. There was a drone expo here, and almost all the companies have exactly the same drones, because all of them were component sourced globally and this assembled together, and all of them were claiming we have developed in-house. So I asked one of them that how many engineers you have, how many people, how many years. He said, you have any experience in avionics designing? He said, no. Then how did you design it? So I mean, I had to be blunt and say that you are new in this field, I'm pretty old in this field. I know how these things are done. You just cannot have the data to design an avionics on your own. You neither have the experience nor you have the data. How did you do it? Either then you have to be genius. Which is not possible.
Always possible.
Possible. And these are industrial products. They cannot be designed by one person ever. Because you have to collect data to do it. And how are you going to collect data? It takes physical time for a prototype to fly.
So government has been giving this production link.
But then there are small numbers. Look at the number of different UAVs flying in the armed forces. Every army commander or any force commander which has the sanction of emergency purchase, they are purchasing them from Indian companies in 30 small 40. Like we are studying it. By the time they study, the technology has moved ahead.
True.
So even if they learn, their ability to learn and implement is not there.
Sir?
This is first we have to accept the problem. The problem is that this emergency purchase in small number, fly them for 6 months, and this is what we want. By the time the technology moves ahead, drone now requires a very, very comprehensive national policy, and it cannot be done by this small sector at all. No way. That this requires an extremely extensive long-term vision. I'm talking very bureaucratic. Because this is how you can put it, but it has to be implemented in a format where operational requirement and technology both has to be studied, and emerging technology and technology that may emerge in 10 years has to be studied and then incorporated in the
what role foreign consultants or NRIs who
they cannot do it. It has to be done from within, and it requires a very extensive. See, first we have to break all these silos, and we have to accept that seniority doesn't mean you have the solution. Seniority and solution has no relation. So all the senior people think they know everything is the fundamental character of bureaucracy, and this is where it is wrong. You can have a person in his 20s who can solve. The person with the solution has to be sitting on the top. It's not the look at Oppenheimer, a nuclear Robert Fuchs in 20s, who actually stole and gave the technology to Russia. What was his age? So you have to find the right people, give them the right knowledge, and put them together. That is the missing. I can give you example of TB2. I've studied TB2, and that's how I've got fascinated with the UAV and came up with a report on UAV. Look at the TB2. This guy saw a technology.
This is the Turkish drone.
Yes, he learned it. He came up with an operation which is not there, which I personally feel could be the reason that he came. He must have discussed with the military. They worked out a operational requirement, and then they sat together and saw work out what is the range and capability that a drone STR for the drone. He went back, he designed it and gave it, and they won the war.
Very nice. Rohitji, thank you very much for covering in detail about drones, why they are important, how they are being utilized in warfare, and what India and Indians need to do to progress the drone technology in our country and build that ecosystem. It was really eye-opening. So now coming to the last topic of the day when we are going to discuss, in 2017, DRDO tied up with IIT Delhi and set up a joint advanced technology center, which later on converted into a center of excellence. However, they focused on 50 projects worth 375 crores, but essentially they were soldier centric. It dealt with two important aspects. One, the bulletproof jackets, and the second, which was lightweight bulletproof jackets, and the second was the adverse weather protection gear, which they were developing. So these were the two aspects, but they never concentrated on any core technologies. Recently, we had a signing of memorandum of agreement with 10 different companies. It was reported by your magazine also. And in that, also they focused on these two things, that is light body weight armor, winter, extreme winter clothing, and maybe one or two things more like, automated munitions or something like that. But there were very, very few other aspects, but focus was on this. Why the core technologies are being missed, and how do we link the basic sciences development and applied science development with defense research? And unless the commercial technologies come in where the industry sees benefit in commercializing those technologies, will they be participative in the development process?
Oh, well, it has two ways of answering it.
I think it's very close to your heart.
Yes,
first
I
of
have
all.
proposed this recently in the report, and which you have read. I have asked for the concentration on the basic science. We are missing the bus because we don't control the science. Technology is a product of science, is application of science to achieve a certain product or something like that. But where is the basic science? Everybody is talking about product, but for product you need technology. But how are you going to develop technology? Do you have the basic science background of that? Do you have that large background of
When you say
workforce?
basic science, what do you mean?
Basic science is physics, chemistry, biology.
In
That's
school level?
college, universities. That's where you train the scientists who are going to who are going to identify a certain new thing to convert into a technology. Let's give you an example. Engine we talk of.
Absolutely.
Engine is based on what? Thermodynamics. Material science. You'd have to develop a material for engine. So how are you going to develop the material for engine? You have to have that kind of metallurgy. Right? For metallurgy, you have to understand the metal, the chemistry of the metal. So look, you have to have that kind of experienced scientists in chemistry who will who with their PhDs and expertise and specialization. In science, you have very, very particular specialization, but that specialization only can help you out in developing an applied science, which say metallurgy. From chemistry, you come to metallurgy. From metallurgy, you will come to the material which can be designed for the requirement of an engine.
Who will integrate this?
This is a all of nation approach. Your universities are not part of it. Everything we think IITs can do it. How many patents IITs have? I mean, IITs, the claim to fame of IITs is because the software engineer from IITs goes and gets a job in the world's best company and make a crore rupee salary. That's their claim of fame. Not like in MIT, where the claim of fame is the number of Nobel Prize winners moving around or the papers that come out of them. Right? Absolutely. That is the claim of fame of a university. The claim of fame is not you're getting a salary in dollar. That is not the claim of fame. We are looking at it different way.
But earlier, the universities used to lead the research, and when they came out with a technology product, that product was adopted by the industries and developed further for applied use. Is that link there?
We killed our universities in 60s, 50s and 60s. Right?
Absolutely.
C.V. Raman, look at the Raman. Raman used to work in university, right? So, do we have such brilliant scientists working in our universities? Universities have become a simple exam
degree churning.
Degree churning. You have engineers in India who say that I studied only one night and passed my engineering.
Rohitji, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time, explaining to us nitty-gritties of where the current status of defense technology is and how to take it forward and how to reduce the critical gap that exists between the advanced nations and us. I'm also thankful to the listeners who may have tuned in and spared their time to understand this extremely important but a very complicated issue. May I request the listeners that to please suggest us some more topics and write in your comments what do you feel about this podcast and where we can improve. Thank you and Jai Hind.